Hi everybody, my name is Tim Rajeff. I am a reformed bait fisherman and have been wetting a line since I was wetting my drawers. I was born in San Francisco, and about 15 years ago I started a fly rod company called Echo.
So this week, Dennis from Colorado Springs, Colorado, sent us a question about how to pick a fly rod. So Fred and I decided to grab a couple rods, head out to a secluded pond just outside of Great Falls that was way harder to get to than we thought, and talk about really why it's important to have the right fly rod.
I mean, a rod, the way I look at a rod as being a special and a personal thing. It's like, you want to like the way it looks, you want to like the way it feels, you want to like the way it casts, you got to like all those things. And if you don't, then you probably need to look at another option. It's like anything, if you like it, if it fits your personality and the style of fishing you do, you're going to love it and you're going to want to fish more. If it doesn't make you feel good, if you're not enjoying it, you're not going to have fun and you're going to do it less or enjoy it less. When you pick a rod, we recommend that you go and cast it. Not so important for someone that's getting their first fly rod because they don't have a frame of reference, but for an advanced angler or someone that's looking to an upgrade, actually physically casting the rod lets you know if you love it, lets you know if you've made the right choice before you put your money down. So we usually recommend that you pick 3 rods, or have us pick 3 rods for you that kind of fit the niche you're looking for, and then we go out and cast them. The perfect fly rod is the one that delivers the fly exactly where I want it to go at exactly the right moment.
So really picking out the right rod is a personal choice that's going to change from individual to individual. But there are certain properties that fit the area better than others. So we're going to go to the owner of Echo Fly Rods and a world champion fly caster, Tim Rajeff, to talk about really what properties to look for in making sure that you have the right rod for the type of fishing you're doing.
How do you choose a fly rod? That's a question that lands on my lap commonly when I'm at a gathering of people that have not done any fly fishing before. They just want to get started. I mean, if I asked you to go pole vaulting, how would you choose the right pole vault, or a tennis racket, or golf club? So I have a couple easy things to remember that help people kind of funnel their ideas or the questions that they have on picking the right fly rod for what your fishing situation is. There's 2 basic properties of a fly rod, and one of them is the overall stiffness of the rod, or what we call what's the rod size, or the fly line number. And you might have heard, there's a number 5 line, and that's good for trout fishing. And if you're fishing for tuna, you'd want a number 15 line, or if you're fishing for bonefish, you'd want a number 8 line. And what that refers to is how much the fly line weighs. And if you think about it, if I gave you a spinning rod, the first thing you're going to say is, I'm throwing a 1/4 ounce lure, or I'm throwing a 2-ounce lure with bait on it. So when choosing a fly rod, the first thing you need to decide is what fly rod size I need. And there's 4 factors that happen that make it easy to choose that. The first one is, what's the size of the fly? Because if a trout or someone is fishing, sipping a really small fly, then you don't need a heavy fly line to cast it. But that same trout, if it was eating a mouse, and you need to throw a big bushy mouse pattern, well, it takes a heavier line to cast a big fly. So first thing is, what size is the fly? The second factor on choosing what rod I want, or what fly line size I need, is the distance of the cast. And just like the spinning rod analogy, if you wanted to throw 200 feet, you wouldn't do it with a little 8-ounce lure. 1/8 ounce or 1/4 ounce lure, you'd want to throw a 1-ounce lure to cut through the wind. So, to throw far. So the second factor is, how far is your casting? So another way to think about it is, a long cast, you want a heavier fly line. The next one is the wind conditions. If you're lucky enough to have fished around the world like I have, and you go to a really windy place like Tierra del Fuego or South America where it's blowing 20 or 30 miles an hour, well, then you need a heavier line to cut through the wind. And then lastly, not so much for us trout fishermen, But if you're fishing for species that really require some fish fighting capabilities, then you'll need a higher line number to fight the fish. I just got back 2 days ago from Florida, and Jamie in our office hooked a 60-pound tarpon. So think of a fish 5 feet long that's swimming and jumping and going crazy. Well, you wouldn't fight that with a number 3 or 4 trout rod. You need a number 10, 11, or 12 weight rod, which is much thicker and heavier to fight the fish. So that's how you choose what rod line size. The next property on rods is the length of the rod. And there's just two really simple ways to remember that. Shorter rods are less fatiguing when you cast, and it's like swinging a shorter hammer handle or choking up on a baseball bat. And they're good for casting under things, or if you have brush around you in a small creek situation, you can use a shorter rod. Longer rods, they tend to cast farther as a rule. If you need to manage the fly line, like if you're on a river with lots of current, you need to mend the line or do other things, or pick up more line or keep it up over the grass behind you, then you might want to go with a longer rod. So that's kind of the nutshell. Pick the right weight line to match those 4 conditions: the size of the fly, the distance, the wind, and then what length you use. It just depends on the environment that you're fishing in.
So what's the difference between an entry-level rod and some of the really high-end, $800,000, $1,000 rods?
Yeah, it's not uncommon for me to have people say, "So Tim, what's the difference between a $100 rod and a $1,000 rod?" That's a really good question. So let's back up a step. There's 7 factors in every fly rod. There are 7 things that make up a fly rod. The first one is the action of a fly rod. That's where the rod bends. The second one is just the overall stiffness of the fly rod. The third factor is what's the overall weight of the fly rod. Then the next one is how strong is the rod? How much will it handle before it breaks? I just broke a fly rod here. The next one is the cosmetics. What's the color? What's the finish? What's the color of the wood on the reel seat? The next one is the components, like how big are the guides, how far apart are they, what's the shape of the handle and stuff. The next one is the cost of the rod, and then finally the warranty of the rod. If you spend a lot of money, you should get a better warranty, a lighter rod, one that's more beautiful, one that is strong. But ironically, it doesn't matter how much you spend, whether it's $100 or $1,000. The 2 things that should be the same for you, no matter what you spend, is what's the rod's action? Is it a fast action rod, medium action? And what's the overall power of the rod? And I can't give you that answer because some of you need a different rod to optimize your fishing and your casting. But the difference then is, assuming you had 2 rods that were the same action and the same power, then a more expensive rod would be lighter, more beautiful, have a better warranty. Everything about the rod should be better. But those 2 factors, the action and the power, that's the really holy grail. And when you find a rod that has the right snap to it, the right power to it, it'll make your casting more efficient. You won't get as fatigued. You'll be able to throw farther and more accurately.
So that's it for episode 28 of the Ask North 40 show. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Also, special thanks to Tim Rajeff and Echo Fly Rods for appearing on this episode. If you're looking for a new rod, please don't be afraid to stop by the shops, talk to any of our guys. They'd be more than happy to help you find a rod. Or you can check us out at north40.com or north40flyshop.com, and we have tons of information and tons of rods available for purchase there. If you have any questions, don't forget to send them to us, comment below, leave them in the blanks, and we'll try to get those answered on another episode. Until next time, have a great day.